Your tools in survival are essential to you, and in order to be efficient using those tools, like your knife, you've got to keep them sharp. And one of the things that I like about a Scandi grind type blade, such as this Mora Bushcrafter, is that it is extremely easy to sharpen while also being one of the best cutting type designs that you can get for bushcraft out there. And for the beginner, having a single plane, almost like a chisel, makes it very easy to sharpen. And with sharpening, it is all about consistency. Typically, when you start sharpening a knife, a lot of people use a diamond stone, and you want to use a diamond stone or a Arkansas stone. There's a lot of options out there to get your initial profile. But once you get a profile, unless you've damaged that knife from batoning or whatever, you tend to want to just hone it from that point on, either using a sharpening steel or preferably some type of leather. Now, this Work Sharp has a leather strop on it, but another option is I always tend to carry a leather belt. Cordura belts are great, but everything that you carry on your kit should be redundant and have multiple uses. So I've always got a leather belt, and I can attach it to a tree, and I can sharpen that knife up very quickly, assuming that the edge isn't damaged from use. So when you first start putting an edge on your blade, it is all about consistency. It is doing the same motion over and over at the same angle and doing it the same number of times on each side of the blade. So with this Work Sharp, it makes it pretty simple. It's got a 20-degree guide, and I can just line it up with that, and you can feel it almost cutting on the edge when you're doing it properly. And you want to use a light touch, and you'll notice that my blade is almost never leaving the stone. I had a butcher teach me that technique, which makes it easier to keep the angle at the same degree consistently. You can also do it and let it, come off the stone, but it works great to just pivot and keep the steel constantly connected to it. And you want to put the right profile on the blade. Now, there are a lot of different angles that you can use, such as a fillet knife, for instance, would have a 17 to 18 degree angle. A bushcraft blade like this would have more of a anywhere between a 20 to a 25 degree angle. If you're using an axe or a machete, you would want between a 25 to anywhere up to maybe even a 35 degree angle, depending on how much hard use it's going to get. Remember that the thinner the profile is of the grind, that the more likely it is to get damaged. And with bushcraft type work, hair shaving is not always the best option. You want a knife to be sharp, but you also don't want it so sharp that you might end up, damaging the edge. And I've always found that these types of blades will actually cut more efficiently through wood when it isn't quite as hair shaving sharp. So I'm not trying to get it to that level. So trick is keep it at the same angle every single time, and I tend to do eight strokes on one side, and then I flip it over and do the same thing on the others. 2, 3. And flip over. And the great thing about the Scandi grind and why it's so easy for beginners to sharpen versus a zero grind or a saber grind or a hollow grind, there's a lot of different options out there, but because this only has one plane, all you have to do is tilt it until it is on that profile, and then just move the blade across the stone lightly. And when you get really good at knife sharpening, I've known guys that could literally get something hair shaving sharp on a cinder block. It's really all technique and doing the same motion consistently over and over. We want to create a consistent edge all the way. And another thing to mention is sharpening steels also come in very handy. Your stone is going to put the proper angle and grind on it. the strop or leather is going to, knock that wire edge off and is going to hone the blade and make it that much sharper. But a sharpening steel will actually straighten the edge and make it true. So I tend to carry a small diamond sharpening rod with me. That comes in very handy for a lot of different uses, to include sharpening your axe or regrinding the profile on your blade. Now, once you've got the profile good, then you want to come back and hit it on the strop. Same thing every time, light pressure. Do it same amount of times on each side. And another thing to remember about knives, especially for bushcraft, is that we don't want any kind of serrated or very angled type blades. We don't want to use Tonto blades or something along those lines. We want just kind of a standard profile knife with either a Scandi or a saber. And that's going to handle all the tasks that we need for bushcraft and survival uses. And this is just one of those skills that is going to take a lot of time and practice for you to get good at. But once you get efficient, it shouldn't take you more than 5 or 10 minutes to put a very sharp, almost hair-popping edge on a good blade. Remember that you also want something that is preferably a high-carbon steel. It's great for sharpening, much better than something like a stainless type blade. And then with a high carbon steel, say you find yourself without some kind of fire making device and you don't have your ferro rod, you're not any good at bow drill, you can actually take sparks off the back of this knife with a flintstone. And if you have some type of tinder around that is flammable, you can knock a spark off the back of your knife and get a fire like that. So it comes in handy for those uses.